Hello and a very warm welcome. When you think of Mumbai, you think of a city that's constantly rebuilding itself vertically, architecturally, emotionally. And few names have been a part of that evolution, quite like Raheja Group. Now, welcome to Future-Proof Realty, a series by ETRealty and ET Studios, where we explore how sustainability, smart design, and future thinking are reshaping India's real estate landscape. And today, we are in a conversation with someone who's not just constructing buildings, but redefining what it means to build for the next generation. Joining me is Ram Raheja, director at Raheja Realty. Thank you, Ram, for joining us for this conversation. We have seen Mumbai transform through luxury, livability, and now sustainability. So let's start there. When you look back at that evolution, what has been the biggest shift in your approach to building?
Thank you so much for having me on this series, and very interesting question to start. So I believe that I came back to India in 2012 after I finished my education in architecture, and I worked for Ricardo Bofill in Barcelona. Um, I feel 12 to now we're living in a completely different era, so to say, of real estate. I feel there was I would take real estate into two phases. One is the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic phase. So pre-COVID, once I came back to India, 12 to 20, it was pre-GST, pre-RERA.
Yeah.
We were an unregulated industry. It was very different, very different in terms of even our consumers' understanding of luxury and development to what we are in today. So I feel there's been a dynamic shift in the way people think, in the way our consumers are reacting to real estate and development, and also in what the expectations are. The development point of view, I don't think marbles and chandeliers are what people are looking at anymore. It's more about sustainable developments. It's more about great spaces that are well planned, and a lot of landscaping and open pockets. I think there's been a wonderful shift, which has been great for the development in India overall.
Yeah, yeah. So how have you actually seen the evolution from the time you came back to India? That like when you compare those two times to now, how you are approaching building? How like what's the shift you've seen?
So, great question. So, there's been a dynamic shift. I came back to the country in 2012 after a lot of exposures in different parts of the world. But the minute I came back and I started working, and I realized that the Indian real estate market is like nothing that you get exposed to anywhere in the world. There was a lot of learning for the first 8 9 years, I would say, and a lot of changes. Right, there was a very dynamic phase in real estate. This is the pre-RERA, pre-GST, pre all your regulatory authority days, which was very different. And I think we've changed for the better, and we keep growing in a much more sustainable way. And this change has been through and through, not only in real estate, but also in the consumer, in our buyers. Pre-COVID, I would definitely look at real estate as pre-COVID and post-COVID, like two distinct phases of real estate in the last 2 decades, to say.
All right, right now in this country, we are looking at, building in a way that we are actually looking to make our buildings future-proof, right? So we are actually creating those future spaces for the next generations to come in, the future-ready spaces, perhaps. What does that mean to you, beyond just certifications? And is it about how the building performs or how people actually live in it?
So, very interesting question again. So, sustainability, I think, stems on the first line that is drawn on a paper when the architect starts the concept. It doesn't start by certification and things like that. Planning is the key to a sustainable development. Running your sun path analysis, understanding every site is different, every site is dynamic. Every site has a lot of different aspects that go around the environment of where it's actually placed. So,
Mhm.
how much how many openings to have, which areas to open up in your apartments. All depends on the sun path analysis that we carry out through all our softwares. So it's very important to actually start the design process while thinking about how the home functions, rather than saying that, there's a checklist, I need to do x gray water, solar, rainwater harvesting. I'm not saying that that's not important. That is very important, and that is required in all our buildings. But I'm saying for it to truly be an efficient development, it has to start at the initial stage when you actually do the core planning of the development.
Yeah, yeah. But what part of that sustainability process, when you look at your buildings, interests you the most? Like, where are you invested the most?
So, with my background and history, the design and the plan, I truly believe plan is the real hero of any project. So, the planning is the most critical part for us, and we are very, very cautious in terms of making sure that we design our buildings from inside out, and not the other way. The home and the kind of layouts that we provide, as you know, where our core market is a luxury space development, and per square foot rates are really high in Bombay. So we have to make sure that the efficiency of planning is very, very important. Yet, while doing that, we got to make sure that we don't compromise in the product in any way.
Yeah, yeah. As you're telling that per square foot rates are higher in Mumbai, as we all know about it, and this is the time when we also talk about green buildings. I mean, they also mean higher upfront costs, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you make that case to your buyers or maybe your investors who still think that sustainability is perhaps an expense and not an investment?
So I would say that the buyer has changed. The buyer is today very intelligent. They understand where we're coming from.
Mhm,
We're today selling most of our stock as luxury developments. And every buyer we interact with is a great interaction towards the development. And in the last 5, 6 years, we've actually seen a great shift towards our buyers understanding the difference in a sustainable development, and what it means to actually we don't need to educate them anymore. They understand what you're doing.
yeah. So, are buyers willing to pay more for a sustainable project as compared to a non-sustainable one?
I I hopefully believe so, because we don't do non-sustainable ones, so I won't know. But I believe so. Yes.
All right. You've been involved in a lot of redevelopment projects
Right.
in Mumbai also. That is tricky as well because there's nostalgia, there are regulations, and also community trust. So,
Right.
how do you sort of strike that balance between, preserving the soul of a neighborhood and also modernizing it for the future?
So again, I'm loving all these questions that you've got. They're very interesting. It's very it's a very tricky one, because people are very emotionally driven to their home. Right, a home is something which you're very, very emotional about. It was maybe your first big purchase. We're also dealing with a lot of senior citizens who've lived there their whole life, and they have certain emotions that they're driven and attached to their home. So we have to address it with a lot of thought, the planning that goes into understanding their requirements, and our requirement as a sale that we create above their units. So I think it's the emotional aspect and the personal involvement on understanding their problem, giving them the solution. As long as we're able to explain to them why and what, I think it becomes a much smoother ride. Coming to the neighborhood, I think most developments are we're creating a lot of green in all our projects. If you look at any of our sites, and if you actually will after this we'll share some images with you all. We create a lot of landscaping in and around our sites, and I think it's very important for the air that we're breathing with the current scenario that cities like Bombay, Delhi all are having, that as developers we have to ensure that there's a lot of green development along with the concrete development that we're doing. So that is something that we're cautious about our neighborhood upgrading. So if you have say 50 trees in the old development, you should have 100 in this. So that's about elevating your lifestyle. Today, lifestyle is not about the marble and the chandelier. Today, lifestyle is about being able to have good open spaces, have well planned spaces, to be able to have a walk in a development with a garden and actually go down and put your feet on earth rather than a plastic turf.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's what is important for the neighborhood to actually sustain through development.
No, absolutely. The mindsets have changed. I mean, there was a time when actually people were looking less, like they weren't looking more for landscapes and greenery around them. There was a time in between when they were actually improving their quality of life, living standards, perhaps. But now we have come back to circle one, and we need open spaces now. I've seen
For
while
example, back
yeah,
in the day, people we had this. I personally, because also for my elevations and also from a lifestyle point of view, I always like to provide decks and balconies in my apartments. Um, when we do redevelopment, a lot of flats are smaller, which are basically say your 1,000 square feet. And the members back in the day would say, you know what, I don't want to waste square feet in a balcony. I want it all inside. That changed. We've also built it and shown it to them and how the difference is of a quality landscape deck right next to your living room. And that thinking has changed through COVID, when everyone was locked in their homes, when they realized, oh, what, I want to actually step out and have my morning cup of coffee in with some fresh air.
yeah, no, absolutely. I've seen the change as well because Mumbai was infamous for not having balconies for a long time, right?
And
But
all the balconies that were there were enclosed.
yeah, true. So, do you think that this is your like unique way, S.
No,
Raheja way of
I think
thinking
everyone
about
is
it?
realized what the consumer wants today. I wouldn't say that this is unique to us, because everyone realizes that this is something which is very common now with most developments.
Yeah,
When you say unique as Raheja way, I would say there are a lot of other things that actually bring out the unique as Raheja way. I feel personal involvement in the development, personal involvement in the planning, making sure that our products. When I say, I mean the products that we use, from the marbles to the granites to the finishes to everything, is very well meticulously designed and planned, and the right product should be used in the right location. For example, if there's a development very close to the sea, we have to actually research backwards into what actually will sustain and not create issues for the development in 10 years from today. So I think when it comes to as Raheja, we're very cautious about the product and also the plan. The planning is something that we're very, very cautious about. So I would go out there on a limb and say we have some of the best planning in all our apartments.
okay. You were talking about the balconies and giving residents more usable spaces while upgrading their lifestyle as well. So, how do you sort of make that happen in a land scarce city like Mumbai?
I can show it to you. I'm sitting in one of our show apartments. We have a deck over here. It's the image is difficult, but what we've done is we've actually taken pockets of our plan, created a glass box around our living. So you have basically an indoor outdoor effect within that same layout. And if you want to cover it, that's also possible. So I think it'll be great if we actually, our team can send you a actual layout and a picture when we talk about it. I think it's very important to understand it on plan how it's done. It's
Yeah,
difficult.
so we'll put those pictures here in the video for our audiences to understand better.
So what we end up doing is we carve out, we create balconies within spaces, and we make them seamless. So we can actually have a step out within your living room, and if the weather is not great, you can always reside inside and cover that up.
All right, interesting. That's interesting. Consumers, when we talk about them today, as we were actually talking, they want homes that are healthier, like more efficient and more conscious. You were right when you said that the mindset is changing. So, how has this new awareness changed the way you think about architecture and also materials?
So the way we have to keep listening to our consumer. The day I or any of my team believes that we know everything and we're doing it right, that's the day I think you stop growing. It's all very important to sit with your consumer, understand their requirements, go back to your developments. We actually have a great interactive relationship with all our buyers, even after they've moved in and are living in their homes 5 years, 10 years later. So it's a great learning. You keep learning, you keep growing, and you learn with every development. It's impossible to say I know it all.
Mhm.
Right? Technology is changing, times are changing, the consumer behavior is changing. So it's always good to be active and not be complacent. In spite of having how many years of experience, you have to be on your toes to understand what's happening and to keep active at it.
All right. So what's new coming for us from Raheja Realty?
So we have very interesting developments coming up in the next couple of years. We have 5 completions happening this year. We have another 6 launches coming in this 25-26 year. In these 6 launches, one of my most interesting projects, I believe, is a commercial development. And talking about decks and balconies, which will be the first. I think it might be the first. I'm not sure, but it'll be the first commercial development where every office that we're building has a deck and a balcony, and not restricting it to residential homes. So I think we'll shoot that elevation up with you guys on this, so you can play it in, because you'll see the elevation where we've given a cantilevered deck with an offset plan in each office space. Because we believe even through the day we actually spend more hours in an office than in our home. Um,
Absolutely.
we need pocket spaces. We need areas where you can go out, step out, have a cup of coffee, maybe take a break, or even have a meeting if it's great weather in the balcony. Why not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are some great, interesting projects. It would be great if you can share those pictures or some thing with us so that we can show to our audiences as well. But looking ahead, we have discussed a lot about what you're doing, how the mindset has shifted. But now, when we look ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunity for sustainable transformation in the Indian real estate market, especially in cities like Mumbai that are, already built up?
So there's a great opportunity in every sector and in every development, and as you said, in Bombay itself. But that has to start at the planning stage. To think about it later is like just it'll never work with the same efficiency.
Yeah.
So the biggest opportunity is that we bring in sustainable consultants on day one at ground zero before we actually start the planning. Mark out your entire, as I said, your sunbath analysis, understanding the weather conditions that your site requires, and actually going back to the original ethos of architecture. The original ethos of architecture when technology wasn't there, if you actually look back, is people were the original home was built with basically understanding your environment. When there's no electricity and no technology, people were basically dependent on the environment, and that itself, if you go back to those roots for your planning, I think will be the biggest opportunity where we'll be all be able to create sustainable developments going ahead.
All right. So, Ram, if you had to describe the Raheja Group's core philosophy in one line, what would it be? Leave our audiences with something.
One line is difficult to sum it up in, but I think if I have to give it to you in one line, I think design with integrity and build with purpose.
Okay, that's such a thoughtful way to put it, actually, because what's clear through our conversation is that for your group, for your company, sustainability isn't a checklist; it's a mindset. This is
Yes.
what perhaps we have discussed through our conversation, and whether it's redeveloping legacy buildings or reimagining urban spaces or creating homes that are healthier and more human, it all comes back to that one line you mentioned, your core philosophy
Thank you. Thank you so
at
much.
the end. And that's exactly what we celebrate here on Future Proof Realty, visionaries who aren't just building for today, but designing for the future as well. So thank you so much for joining for this conversation. And to our viewers, we'll be back soon with another conversation on how real estate is becoming smarter, greener, and future ready.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, and